tell me who rock, who sell out in the stores. You tell me who flop, who cop the blue drop, who jewels got blocks, who's mostly Dolce down to the blue drop. The same old pimp, Mace, you know ain't nothing changed but my limp. Can't stop till I see my name on the blimp. Guarantee a million sales, pull a level up. You don't believe in Harlem World, nigga, double up. We don't play around, it's a bet, lay it down. Niggas didn't know me 91, bet they know me now. I'm the young Harlem nigga with the Goldie sound. Can't no PD, niggas hold me down.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to the Money Time podcast. It is a Wednesday night. The time is 8 o'clock. And I'm not alone. I'm also with my co-host here, Mrs. Frelinghouse. Nikki, how are you this evening?
Evening, Zweli. Evening, everyone. I'm great. Trust you all are doing well and you've moved past the long weekends and settled back into normal life.
I did not think that going past the weekend, it means that we are not living a normal life according to stats, because we obviously when Nikki says this, I'm thinking that people just go crazy when it's long weekends. That's why she's saying normal life. So back to reality. Thank you, Nikki, for reminding us that we had lost control over the long weekend. So, Nikki, we're looking at a very sensitive but reality. The lessons under the pandemic, after the pandemic, is our topic today. And just to give an overview, it's been 3 years already. It's not 3 years after the pandemic, but I think we've experienced the pandemic for, let's say, 3 years. Because if we say 2.5, let's just say 3 years, because, you know, those who taught us math, 2.5 equals to 3, when you round it off. So, yeah. So, and we have a lot going, and some are doing well, some are struggling to adjust. And it's because of the results of the pandemic. So today we're looking at lessons that we can have after the pandemic. And, you know, for me, there's a lot that I'm thinking about, but what was always on my mind is that it would take us time to recover from the pandemic, and people thought, nah, this thing will just go off quickly, like it would be just a thing of the past, and then that would be it. But we can actually see that we are still struggling from a lot of things from the pandemic. Your thoughts, Nikki, on that before we get into the lessons?
Sure, Zweli. I definitely agree with that. You know, the pandemic has left a lot of has had a huge impact on people. Some, you know, the impact is clearly visible, others not so visible. Some people speak about it, others don't speak about it, but the pandemic has definitely had an impact in some shape or form on every single person out there.
No, definitely. And, you know, it was so powerful in its sense that everyone felt it, except obviously for those who did not understand what was going on, like kids, you know, especially babies. But if you were old enough to understand what was going on, somehow you're impacted because you would have lost a relative, or you know somebody who's lost a relative, or somebody who has lost their job. You know, there's just a lot that comes out of it. But then I'm happy that we today are looking back and just obviously looking forward by just saying what is it that we can take from the previous pandemic and moving forward. How do we move forward? Because I think the greatest challenge for other people is how do they move? Because some don't have parents because of the pandemic, some don't have spouses, some don't have kids. It's just a lot. And it's not just, it has impact on the psychological, spiritual, financial. There's just a lot of effects that the pandemic has had. A lot of negatives, but also there are positives to take from it. We can't run away from that. So I think the first lesson that we're looking at is adjusting to change. We're looking at how do we adjust to change. Your thoughts on that, Nikki?
Zweli, this one is really important because as humans, we are people who form habits, right? And we are creatures of habits, so to speak. So we get up at a certain time, we take our coffee at a certain time, we shower at a certain time, we leave home at a certain time. Now, when the pandemic started and we were under hard lockdown, this changed people's routine. And a lot of people felt out of sync. I mean, everything changed in our lives, right? And people struggled to adjust to that change. And even as you said, 3 years past, 3 years in terms of the pandemic and post-pandemic, people are still struggling to adjust to what's called the new normal. So the most important thing is having flexibility or adaptability in order to change based on the circumstances that you find yourselves in.
Yeah, no, definitely. I would also want to add on what you've just said, Nikki, because when it comes to habits, these are things that or activities that are hard to just leave, especially daily habits like waking up. If you are used to going to work, waking up and going to work, now all of a sudden your company is closed. You wake up every day around the same time. It's been like 2 years. Every day you wake up, and when you wake up and you open your eyes, you remember that you're no longer going to work. Some people, they work from home, but they're still not. Some are enjoying that, some are not enjoying such. So I would say my contribution towards adjusting to changes, we need to, and I've been saying this even during the pandemic, to adjust our expectations, because our expectations are informed by what we know is to happen. Now things have changed drastically. You can, at first it was easy to say to somebody, I'm having I've lost a family member, and then you'd expect automatically people to come and support you, come to the funeral. These days, it's very difficult for people to even do that,
Yes.
To just come and be supportive, because there's so many lives that have been lost to a point where people feel like, I don't want to be in that situation of being in a part of a funeral, seeing people crying, because it just triggers all these emotions from the past, where I've lost my mom, my dad, so it's really difficult. So we need to just adjust our expectations, especially whenever we're doing things, and even social visits. The pandemic is obviously over in its sense, but there are still people who are getting COVID there and there. We still hear a few cases. You'll see 1 or 2 people in a week wearing a mask, and you ask yourself why. It's because this is us now adjusting our expectations, because people are thinking the pandemic is over. I am not expecting anyone to be wearing masks, but you still do. So you need to adjust your expectations in terms of what you want to see out there or what you want to happen, because things will not happen the way. So that's one thing I felt maybe I can contribute with towards adjusting to change. You know, there's this one. It's the second point that we are looking at, and it's been said even before the pandemic. Everyone has said it, and we always play around with these words. Life is too short, and it is too short. Actually, you know, I don't even know how to start, because life is very short. If you look at it, there's so much that you can do with the life that God has given you. But if you do not enjoy and live life to the fullest, in a manner that we will always remember you, it's going to be very sad for everyone to lose you, and knowing that you did not enjoy life. But if you know that you are a happy soul, you are a happy person, you left a legacy somehow. It doesn't have to be money, but it could be teachings. Like we are leaving a legacy behind here. The Money Time podcast will be seen by great-grandchildren of our own. So yeah, we hope your time Google will still keep, YouTube will keep these. But I'm just saying that we need to live our life and fulfill the purpose of why we're here, because life is really short. Nikki?
Zweli, I mean, really wise words, as a coach, when I work with clients often approach, be it a life coach or a business coach, because they want assistance, they've got goals, they've got dreams, they've got aspirations, but they don't know how to reach the end point to accomplish this. And I often find when working with clients that one of their biggest obstacles is the fact that the time's not right, I don't have enough money, and this is why I say life is too short. The time will never be right to make big decisions like marriage, planning a family, starting a family, emigrating, if that's something you're looking at, starting a business. For all life major decisions, all you can do is plan to a limit, but you've got to trust and leave the rest up to a higher force. There is no guarantees that your plans are going to work out, but you've just got to go out there and do it. And one of the benefits when you work with a coach is that the coach becomes your accountable buddy and assists you reach your goals at a much quicker rate, as opposed to you going at it by yourself. Zweli, as humans, we're very strange creatures. You'll often find we have disagreements or arguments with people close to us, be it siblings, be it parents, be it colleagues, and we tend to hold grudges. And the next thing you find out, a week down the line, something's happened to the person and the person's passed on. Then you're sitting with regret and you think, oh, but you know what? I should have actually called Zweli and apologized. Now it's too late. Zweli is no longer here. So I'm certain as I'm speaking, there's many of you out there who can actually relate to some of the things that Zweli and I are saying. Life is too short. There is no perfect time. There is no ideal time. Whatever you want to do, whatever you want to say, go out there and do it. Go out there, say it, By all means, do not be irresponsible when it comes to things like starting a business and quitting your job today. No, that is not what we mean, Be responsible, do everything at the right time, but plan when you're going to do such things. So life is too short. Tomorrow's not guaranteed. All you have is the present. Be present in the present moment and live your life as best as you can. Go out there, live your best life.
Thank you, Nikki. Just to wrap it up, in line with it being lessons from the pandemic. I think also life is too short for us to be complaining about the pandemic. The effects.
Yes.
We cannot be sitting here and be like, yeah, it's their fault, whoever, the scientist, whatever where the breakout came out from, and now we don't have jobs, we don't have this. We need to be looking forward, coming up with solutions. So life is too short for us to be complaining, not to be enjoying our lives, meaning that you cannot still be talking 1.1 meter social distancing today, because then it means we are still sitting in the past. We've gone past the 1.1 social distance thing. You just need to accept things the way they are and try and live within the current situation, and stop looking back and be complaining, because it's easy for us to be pointing fingers right now when things are not going right. Be like, yeah, it's the pandemic. It is, but it's not here now. And what do we do moving forward? How do we soldier on? Because, like you said, there's things that we do not have control over, and we should just leave it to the higher forces. But after the higher forces, in the hierarchy of life, it's the human beings. So we are above everything else. So even these situations, we are above these situations, because we have the power to pass these situations,
sure.
to move from them and forge forward positively. So I thank you for that one. Life is really too short to be complaining. Hence, we've started things. We've started the Money Time podcast. In the midst of everything that is happening, we just felt like this is the right time to do it, because if we kept on planning it for another 3 years, another pandemic would have came. So yeah, and it's a possibility that we can encounter another one, Nikki.
It is a possibility.
Life is too short. So this one, the next lesson, it's our. I think it's part of our preaching, because it has come up, I think, now 4 times in our podcast. Live within your means.
Yeah, so Zweli, this one's a really important one as well. When the pandemic started, a lot of people lost jobs. People found themselves in situations where their salaries were reduced by 20%, 30%, 50%. There was a lot of changes where employers or companies tried to keep their staff employed, and some unfortunately had to let go of staff. Now, this would have impacted and has impacted people financially. I'm uncertain what your experiences have been, Zweli, but from my side as a business owner, the pandemic definitely affected my business and my team financially. Fortunately, I was still able to retain my small team, but as a business owner, I took responsibility and decided to reduce my salary from the business in order to keep my business going and keep my team employed. Now, this is just my personal experience, but going back to what we've said, live within your means. There's a lot of people, because they were already overextended financially prior to the pandemic. When the pandemic hit and their financial situation changed, you found that this had a crippling effect on people's finances. I mean, people moved from situations where there were 2 people working in the household and contributing financially, and things changed with only 1 person now employed and contributing financially. So your expenses haven't changed, right? But now your income has totally changed. You're earning less than what you did previously, and you've moved from a 2 household income to a 1 household income. Obviously, this has had an impact on people financially. People have lost houses, people have lost cars, people have had to downscale, people have had to sell up things. A lot has impacted clients financially. So that's the reason why I say live within your means. It doesn't mean that if you earn 10,000 rands per month, you must use the entire 10,000 rand each month. I go back to our very first podcast where we discuss budgeting. Listen to it once again. Live within your means. Budget. Do not spend everything you earn. Try and keep a buffer of at least 20 to 30%. You don't know when life happens. That will serve you well in the future.
Thank you very much, Nikki, on this one. I think also one of the things that I kept saying to myself as we were, preparing to to discuss this topic is budget, especially around this point, like live according to your budget and be real to yourself, because, there's the real life and the virtual life. Sometimes the virtual life is the one that you imagine yourself, living large, being able to afford everything. It's the desired life. Let me just put it, not virtual, but the desired life. It would be, you affording everything, being able to help everyone, being able to drive the car of your dream and living in your nice house, having your family there. It's everything that I think everyone has got that. But then there's also the real life where everything is right in front of you. Just try and live within your means, meaning that be real to yourself, know what you can't do and what you can do, and take lessons from some of the things that we've said and other people that have said. I mean, like, for example, we spoke about the needs and wants as part of
Yes.
the lessons in our first podcast, and if you really take that to heart, you'll be able to adjust easily to say, this is a want, this is a need. We're not saying don't go for your wants, but do it understanding that this is not a need, because once you're still mixing those around, you'll end up being all the time complaining, not understanding why things are not going the way you want them to. It's because you don't want to be real to yourself. So I think living within your means is just being honest with yourself, accepting what you currently have and working towards what you want to achieve. I think we can, for me, it's just putting it like that, to say, accept what you have, work towards what you want to achieve, because there's always a price to pay for whatever that you want to achieve. So it can't just miraculously happen that you find yourself having more money to afford things if you've not had made plans or worked hard towards that. So let's just be real and live within our means, and I'm sure we'll be good.
Just to add to that, Zweli, also I think gratitude's really important, right? No matter how much you have, there's someone out there who doesn't have at all. So
Yes.
Be grateful for what you have. Be grateful that you're earning an income, because a lot of people out there were retrenched during the pandemic, and years later, they're still struggling to find jobs. Just be grateful for all that you have.
No, definitely. We should be talking about the gratitude journal, it's one of those things that we still have a lot to offer here, but yeah, I think gratitude is also a good thing to practice. It doesn't cost you anything, but just to be real about what you are grateful for, and just look at that, every time if you were to write what is good and what is bad, you will see that what is bad is just 2-3 things. What is good is about 10 things. But we take all this time, we always take the bad things as if they overcome the good things in our lives. So we should just try and live within our means and be grateful. Your health is your wealth. That's the lesson. Your health is your wealth. I certainly agree. But I'll let you come in and then maybe I'll come in after that.
So many people were impacted by the pandemic from a health perspective. Unfortunately, some people have passed on. Those who have survived have complications. And that's the reason why I say your health is your wealth. I mean, if you don't have good health, how are you going to be able to get up each day, face the day, earn an income? What do you do if you don't have good health? Good health is something that you cannot buy. It's something that you can work towards, aspire towards. But once your health is gone, it's really tough to get it back to the level that it was once at. And a lot of people, when you say something like your health is your wealth, a lot of people, when they much younger or irrespective of age, they'll look at me strangely and think, you can't be serious. Why would you say something like this? And I say this because one of the biggest things the pandemic has shown us is it doesn't matter what your background is. It doesn't matter how much of money you have in the bank, but nobody was excluded from the pandemic, right? Nobody was excluded from contracting COVID. COVID didn't say, hey, Nikki, your bank balance is smaller than Zweli's, so you will now have COVID. No, that did not happen. When people got COVID, it really didn't matter how much of money they had or what they did or did not have. All you did was hope and pray, take your medication and hope and pray that you survived that 14-day period. So that's the reason why I say your health is your wealth. Take care of yourself. If you're not feeling good, don't ignore and say, oh, I'll get to the doctor in a month or 2 months' time, or this feeling will go away. Go to a doctor immediately. Knowledge is power. Go and see what's happening. Maybe it really is nothing to worry about. Or maybe this could be something that's the start of something much bigger, where if you go to the doctor, empower yourself, you go for an examination, you find out what the problem is, and you can start working on a medical condition right now, as opposed to 2 or 3 years down the line when it's too late.
Yeah, no. Thank you, Nikki. Your health is your wealth. Certainly, I agree, because we've lost a lot of people who were wealthy, but who did not have health, a good enough health to hold on and fight this pandemic. And the way this thing can really confuse people, the way a lot of talks, and some were saying, funny enough, this pandemic is hitting a lot of rich people. And some people were saying, no, if you are poor, it will hit you hard, because it means your immune system is not good, you are not eating healthy. But that was not the case. It was
not the case.
It was hitting anybody and everybody. And the thing is, you could contract it and survive it, or some people couldn't survive it. So for us to be running around talking things and not focusing on this point, to say your health is your wealth, what we mean here is that take good care of yourself, health-wise, look after yourself. It doesn't really mean, because some people will start talking about affordability, and we're not talking about money, going to every month going for a checkup. No, we're saying look after your health. And there's ways to do that. You know, you eat healthy, you live healthily,
Exercise.
you exercise, you don't, we've talked about harmful habits before. You know, stay away from those, and then you just look after your health, because if you do not look after your health, then you are likely to fall into a trap of, you know, being easily affected by illnesses. Like if for example, let's just put it the way it is. If you smoke a lot and your lungs are no longer good, and then comes the pandemic, and then you contract something like COVID, you're likely not to survive it. So that's what we are talking about here. We're not really talking about you going to the doctor every month and doing checkups, but just looking after your health and living health, because without health, it means that your lifespan, if without good health, your lifespan is shorter, and it cannot stand a lot of things. And you know, with everything that is changing, there's so many diseases that pops up every day. And if our health is not good, we are likely to not be able to fight those diseases. So let's look after ourselves, live healthy, eat healthy, stay away from
Harmful habits.
Yeah, I think that's it. Thank you, Nikki, on that one. So we must also learn to prioritize self-care and well-being. Prioritize self-care and well-being. Nikki?
So this is just an extension on our previous lesson around your health is your wealth. During the pandemic, a lot has changed in people's lives. A lot of people have now started working remotely or working from home. And what I've personally found, because I work remotely now, is that my meetings start from 8 in the morning, and I'm literally, my diary is booked hour by hour, right until 5, 6 o'clock in the evening. Now, this isn't really good at all, because there isn't even time for me to have lunch. At times, I eat my lunch in front of my computer. Now, that's not healthy habits. And this was how things started off at the start of the pandemic, because you're stressed out, right? Everyone wants to keep their jobs. They want to keep their business going. You tend to work extra long hours, because it's all it's all about the concept that the harder you work, you retain your clients, you retain your job, you retain your income, right? And what I found, and I'm uncertain what other people's experiences were, but within the first few months, I was starting to suffer from burnout, because I was working longer hours. I was constantly in a state of stress. I wasn't even prioritizing simple things like having lunch, taking a coffee break, taking a body break. These were some of the things that I experienced. And as a result, it also took a knock-on impact in terms of my health. A few months later. And I'm not the only person who's gone through this. I know there's a lot of people who found themselves in similar situations. I know of people where both husband and wife are now working from home, kids are being homeschooled, and now you find both parents have to pick up duties around the house, because they've got to take care of the cooking, cleaning, assisting the kids with online schooling. And you find at the end of the day, there was just no time left for you, even to have something as simple as a cup of coffee. There was no time. So that's the reason why I say prioritizing self-care. And even months, years after the pandemic, you find people have now settled into that routine where they're working constantly, back-to-back meetings, and it's all because they want to keep a job, right? They want to remain relevant in their job. They don't want to be a name on a list when it comes to retrenchment time. And you find because of that, people are giving more to their jobs, to other things in their lives, as opposed to giving time to themselves. So I'm not saying do not focus on your job. I'm not saying take 6 breaks during a day. No, that's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is, even if it's 15 minutes, just to take a quick break, to eat your lunch, 5 minutes to have a coffee, just 5 minutes just to sit down, switch off your phone and just breathe, just breathe, or just take 5 minutes out to pray, whatever self-care looks like to you. I encourage you to put yourself first and afford yourself some time for self-care. I'd also like to add another aspect to this, really, and that's around mental health, right? A lot of us were impacted from a mental health perspective during the pandemic, and we're still recovering post-pandemic. Now, we come from cultures or societies where it's not really encouraged to speak about our emotional health and well-being. It's often seen as something that's taboo. And I'd like to encourage the viewers out there is to say there's nothing to feel embarrassed or ashamed about when it comes to mental health. For those of you on a med aid, you can utilize the services of a psychologist or psychiatrist linked to the type of med aid plan that you are on. For those of you who are not on med aid, there are a lot of other organizations out there where you can actually give them a call and they will counsel you through whatever mental health or emotional health issues that you're going through. So you're not alone. Just reach out to us on socials. We will share some of the information with you, but self-care is a priority. Honor yourself and give yourself some time out to focus on you.
Thank you, Nikki, for that. You've said a lot, and I hope that listeners or viewers can really, really take this to heart, because, we tend to focus on things that really, really affect us mentally, spiritually, and even physically, because we overlook at taking care of ourselves. Just to spend 5 minutes to say, you know what, let me just take a break. I've not had the pressures of working from home, but because of maybe the type of work that I do or things that I do. But I've noticed that some people are saying that it's much more difficult to work from home, especially when you have to obviously be reporting and giving out. It's a relaxed environment, point one. And point number two is there's no supervision. So you need to be self-motivated. And apparently even the organizations or businesses are expecting more from you, because you've got so much time to yourself. And when I think about it, it's not easy, because you could be having your kids around. It's some during school holidays, because it's normal for them to be there and during school holidays, and you are supposed to deliver. And those are the challenges. And you'll find that you have to prepare breakfast, lunch while you are working, and you still have your work to do. There's just a lot when you are at home. And I agree with you. Take some time out, take a break, pray, meditate, do whatever that you have to do for you to, feel relieved and not under pressure. Because we always say, and even when we write our CVs or during interview, we work well under pressure. We've forgotten to really look at the realities of what pressure does to a human being. We may take it well, but at the end of the day, there will be something that you lose from working under pressure. It might not be visible today, but it may be visible 10 years later. So it's in line with taking care of our health. I agree. And with the mental health issue, like you said, in certain communities or ethnic groups, it's like taboo to speak about such things. And you know, I'm experienced from Black communities that things like stress at first was, what is that? Don't come here and tell us about stress. We don't know what stress is. We don't know what depression is. But you know, as you grow up and you start understanding this concept, you can, and I'm glad that more people are starting to relate and understand what those things are, because when it's not with you, you don't understand it. When you don't have it, you don't understand it. When you're not going through it, you don't understand it. But it's bad to disregard, you know. Don't disregard, just listen to the person. And if you don't have any good advice or any assistance, just be honest and say, you know, I know nothing about this. Maybe you should get help, rather than, you know, just to be like, there's no such a thing as depression. There's no such a thing as stress. I don't get stressed, you know. And
Because all people want is just someone to listen to them. They don't need you to provide them with a solution to their problems. All they need to do is take it out of their head and their heart and just voice it to someone.
yeah, and I think our problem is when we do not have solutions, we just disregard and think, because I don't have an answer for this, I'm just gonna be like, I did no such a thing, you know. So let's look at ourselves and prioritize taking self-care. And you, like you said, Nikki, mental health. If you can, go out there and look for help. If you feel like, you know what, mentally I'm not doing okay.
Coping.
You know, I'm not coping because of 1, 2, 3. Get help, because it's true. There is these things like depression and stress, and there's more to these things than we see them. Because a person would be like, whenever I'm stressed, I can feel tension around my neck, but somebody else, it's different. Whenever they stress, they can't really even go out. They've got anxiety. They can't be around people. So it affects people at different levels. So we need to just be polite to each other around these issues, especially parents to kids, you know,
That's
because
the big one.
as parents, we do not want to accept a lot of things that kids will come and tell you that I think I'm suffering from this. You don't, that I think it's you being scared of facing that, and you just want to disregard it and be like, no, you know, but it shouldn't be like that. Here's the big one, Nikki, and I hope we are done with this, the prioritizing of self-care. Emergency fund provision. Can I come in first here?
Come in, Zweli.
You know, and I want to come in first because I know that the pandemic caught us off guard. Like no one saw this coming. No one thought this would happen. And a lot of people were in disbelief when the pandemic was going on. Like we could not believe it. We could not believe it. And it happened so quickly. When the lockdown started, people who were comfortable with being locked down were people who had enough savings, who could say, yeah, you know what, if I don't go to work, if I don't do this, if I don't pour petrol, I think for the next 3, 4 months, because we all thought it was going to be a short one, for the next, even if I don't get a salary, but for the next 4 months, I can survive, because it was about surviving. So, and people who did not have anything could not comply with being locked down. They were fighting and seeing this thing as non-existent, you know. there's no such a thing as COVID, and we are fighting because you want to go out and get income. So because you do not have anything for emergency funds, you have nothing, Nick. Like literally, maybe you've got just maybe a couple of hundreds in your account, and you are thinking, if I was to buy groceries for this month and I don't go to work, or I lose my job, I'll be in problems. So, and this was affecting both businesses and individuals. So businesses without emergency funds were losing, like dropping their staff members, retrenching, cutting off salaries and all those things. And some were demanding people to come to work. If you do not come to work, you'll be fired. So those are the results of not having emergency funds. And this is a lesson now moving forward, that let's work towards that. Even if we start saving from 50 Rand a month, because it's an emergency fund, you are just building, because we're hoping with the next pandemic will be in the next 50 years, maybe. So by then, you would have done well to save even for your kids. But I think the emphasis is trying to save for emergencies, because it was really bad, and it divided people. There are those who are like, no, let's stay at home and be safe, because you can easily say that because you know that you've got emergency funds. But there are those who do not understand it, and they become rebellious, and they be like, we want to go out and work. We want to feed our kids, because then, especially when it started, there wasn't anything in place. There was no plan that the government had. It's only the food parcels, which also brought a lot of things, but that's another one for another day. But yeah, I think it's very important to really, really emphasize on this one.
So, Zweli, thank you for your thoughts and comments on this particular lesson. This lesson around saving for emergency funds also links up to the previous lesson around living within your needs. And it's not things that we haven't discussed before. So what I mean here is to say that the rule of thumb out there is, at any point in time, to have at least 4 to 6 months worth of expenses saved up in a savings account. And that is what I refer to as the emergency fund. Now, during the pandemic, a lot of us were called upon to assist people because they were going through challenges. So things like funeral services. This is something that was not planned, right? You didn't plan to have family members or friends pass on because of the pandemic. And because they or their families did not make provisions, we were now called upon to ask to contribute towards a funeral service. Now, I don't know about you, Zweli, but for me, that was something that wasn't within my budget, and I would then have to take out money from emergency funds to contribute. And I just used a funeral service as an example. Now, a lot of you who are listening out there would have found yourself in similar situations, whether it's been asked to contribute towards something as simple as groceries, school fees, funeral costs, transport costs, clothing, whatever it may be. We were all called upon at some time or the other during the pandemic to help out others who were less fortunate than us. So that's the reason why an emergency fund is so important. Emphasis on the word emergency. Emergencies don't announce themselves and tell us, hey, Zweli, I'm coming around in 3 months' time. Make sure that you're ready for me. No, that is not what happens. Emergencies happen at any point in time. But what we can do is ensure that we put money away. As Zweli said, even if it's something as little as 50 rands, we don't know what your affordability is like. But what is important is the habit of actually putting something away and putting it into a fund that you do not touch, and that becomes your emergency fund. So in the event of, be it another pandemic or an unforeseen circumstance like getting retrenched or an unforeseen death in the family, you know that there's a fund that you can dip into to actually take out some money to assist wherever you can.
No, very true. And some people also don't understand that this can even be done in groups, you know, because the other thing is we really forget that we are more powerful in numbers than just alone. So if you can't do it alone, do it in a group. You know, like your family.
A stokvel.
Yes, within the family, it helps. Believe me, it helps. Emergency fund provision, it doesn't have to be something that you do alone. You can do it with a group of friends, people that you trust, of course. Don't just start something and, you know, and think that you can call everyone and anyone to be part of. You must just make sure that it's within your circle of people that you trust. And it's possible, you know, because sometimes trying to do it alone may take you a very long time and it can be very difficult to do it. But we encourage that if you can do it alone, do it. If you can do it in a group, do it. Because hey, this thing of being caught off guard, especially with regards to things that require money, it's a problem. It's really a problem, and you feel really bad when you can't help. You feel defeated because you can't contribute, you can't help. And yet, the other question that comes out, which is a very unfair question, is that, but you guys are working, what have you been doing? and and people don't understand because, you know, we live different lives, we encounter different problems, and we tend to miss the importance of doing certain things because of the pressures that we have. And I think it also goes back to prioritizing self-care, Nikki, because I can be earning, say, 10,000, and maybe every month I use all my 10,000 without saving. But and it's because maybe I'm doing a lot for others, but it means I'm not doing something for myself. I'm not able to even save 100 rand for myself, but maybe I bought a hamburger for somebody else. You understand? So
yes,
we really need to sit down and think about how best can we do this, because if I'm able to entertain 3 friends with 300 rands, then, and I'm still not able to provide emergency fund for myself, then it means I'm missing something there.
priorities, really
Yes,
priorities.
you're not prioritizing on yourself. So because everyone will be thinking, yeah, but I do a lot for people and I don't have enough for myself. No, there must be something that you need to adjust to. You must adjust something. There must be something that you need to adjust so that you are able to do such a thing like emergency fund provision. That's why I'm saying that even if it's in a group, but just do it knowing that, as you know, should something happen, at least this and this I can cover, you know, unlike just not knowing and moving on with your life, working hard every day and not being able to come up with a solution for your own self. So yeah, thank you, Nikki, on that one.
Sorry, Zweli, just to come in here as well, you know, emergency funds from a psychological perspective actually creates a sense of peace, comfort, and confidence. Because if you know you've got X amount in your emergency fund, you know, if anything goes wrong, you will be able to weather whatever storms come your way.
Very true. Yeah, so basically, you're buying your own peace there. So yeah, I thank you, Nikki. We're moving to the next lesson, which is risk mitigation. Risk mitigation, you even made an example of medical aid, life insurance, and also maybe having a will.
Let me tell you more, Zweli. So here I put on my cap as a certified financial planner on this particular lesson. So viewers, get your financial house in order. Yes, everyone out there has a funeral policy, but there's more that you require from a financial planning perspective, as opposed to only having a funeral policy. So what is risk mitigation? We touched on this earlier on around the impact COVID has had on people from a medical perspective. Some people out there are fortunate to be on medical aid plans. Other people out there make use of the government hospitals. Now, wherever you at, what I'm trying to get at here is make sure that you have access to medical care, whether this is private medical care or whether this is access to a public hospital, whichever way it is, that is a priority. Why is it a priority? Because as we've mentioned earlier on, your health is your wealth. We don't wish for medical challenges to happen in our life, but unfortunately, irrespective of whatever age you're at, medical challenges do take place, sicknesses, illnesses do occur. So make sure that you've got some sort of medical provision available to you. Zweli, do you want to add anything on this before I move on to the next one?
Sure, Nikki. Based on also the comment that you've made, I'm happy that you said when it comes to medical care, it doesn't have to be in a form of you having medical aid, but the risk mitigation is you having access to medical care. Because people will start stressing and saying, you know what, following this podcast is pointless, because what if I can't afford medical aid? It means that I do not I'm not being addressed here. But basically, what we're saying, manage the risk of not being able to be taken care of medically, whether it's free medication from the hospital. Make sure that you get access to that, like you are able to access that. And yeah, because but people are very big on funeral cover. They're very big on that. But nowadays we need to also look at things like affordable life insurance.
Correct.
Because if you can afford some of these what do you call them, funeral covers, look at other life insurance. Maybe we do not know all of them, but there's a lot. But make sure that you go to and do your research around the credibility of that particular life insurance or whoever that providing that service. So also, you mentioned something about your will.
So Zweli, I just want to quickly come in on the life insurance, if you don't mind, before we move on to the will. So just to add on to what Zweli is saying about the life insurance, if leaving behind a legacy is important to you and making provisions for your family when you are no longer here, then speak to a certified financial planner. explore the options that are available in terms of life insurance, because funeral covers come with a max amount of no more than, I think, 50 to 100,000. And once that's used to cover a funeral. But what happens to your family once the funeral's over? If you were the breadwinner of the household, where's the family now getting an income to pay for the bond, for the rent, for the car, for school fees, for groceries? Where's that money coming from? So life insurance is a very cheaper alternative to making provisions for your family when you're no longer here. So contact your certified financial planner, have a discussion with them, and look at other provisions that you can put in place for your family other than funeral policies.
Yes, thank you, Nikki. And you mentioned a will. This one is a difficult one for a lot of people, because we always procrastinate this one. People will say, I'm still young for this one. I'm still. Or if anyone was to ask you, do you have a will, and you'd be like, you want me to die now? You know, those are the questions that pops up. But going back to one of the points that we've made, life's too short. You'll never know what can happen tomorrow. So don't ever look at it. If you have something or assets or anything, and because the good thing about a will is that you are in control of it. You can easily change it while you're still alive. So you can start making your preliminary will where you just, or even if it's temporary in your mind, where you just have a few things that you say, this is what I have, and should ABC happen, this is what would happen. And what are you doing in line with the lesson? The lesson is risk mitigation. You are mitigating the risk of having your family members fighting over things that you've left behind without telling them what should happen with those things. Especially with the young couples, if you are married and if you do not have a will, you can easily put your spouse in problems after something happens to you, because your family members can easily fight your spouse and say, yeah, no, you do not qualify for these things. Some people are even accused of being the ones that have killed their husband or their wife. So it's a very, very sensitive one. So if you have a will, make sure that you do your will and keep it to with whoever that you trust that they will obviously do the right thing should you not be around, because wills obviously are for instances where you are no longer around, and you can always change them while you are still alive. It's just that there are service providers who will call you and say, we are ready to do your will. Be in contact with those, or do your own will. I don't think it's difficult to do that. Have an attorney which you can keep it with, or maybe even a family member that is distant from your immediate family. Write your will, keep that envelope with them. Should something happen, they will come. If you trust them enough that they will do the right thing, because all you are doing is mitigating the risk of leaving a problem behind, especially when you have assets and you've got something to leave behind for people to benefit from.
So just to add to what you've said, Zweli, your will becomes your final voice when you are no longer here. And that's the reason why it's so important. A will is also something that's very much taboo in certain cultures because of the misconceptions or perceptions around death and inviting death when you put a will in place. So those are just nothing but myths. A will is a very valid, important piece of paper that becomes your final voice when you're no longer here. Now, Zweli's given a few good examples as to why you need a will. Something else to add to what he said is a will becomes very important where you have minor kids. Now, you could have a situation where husband, wife, and 2 kids are traveling together. Unfortunately, there's an accident, both husband and wife pass on, and the 2 kids are survivors. So who becomes the guardian of those kids? Now, that's where a will becomes in very handy, and it's really important because in your will, you will indicate, should no parent be alive, what would happen to the kids and who would become the guardians for the kids. So you don't have a situation where his families are fighting to take custody of the kids or her family is fighting to take custody of the kids. You clearly outline in your will who will then become the guardian for your kids. Also important to note, with wills, most banks or all banks offer them for free. So if you don't have one, reach out to your bank. They'd be able to do that for you for free. Attorneys, some charge, others don't charge. So that's something to take into account. And there's also what I call the CNA wills. So for those of you who can find the very few CNA branches that exist in South Africa, they do have pre-printed wills, which you can buy, complete, and as Zweli said, keep it with someone you trust or an attorney, and that becomes your final voice when you are no longer here. But I cannot emphasize how important a will is, and also to go on further to say, if you do not have a will in place, then your estate goes what we call interstate, where the state then gets involved in terms of going through the legal process in terms of who inherits what. So please, you do not want to put your family through such a process. It's really simple. Just go and put a will in place.
Thank you, Nikki. For a moment, I thought now CNA, like, what I wasn't thinking about the one that you can buy. I thought CNA has got a service for a will. So that's thank you so much for that, Nikki. And I also didn't know that the bank offers a free will. Thank you for that. It's something to look into because a lot of people have got bank accounts. So we have it, and I'm sure a lot of people did not know this. So, you know, these are the benefits of having a financial advisor, financial planner, financial coach right in front of you every Wednesday night, giving you some tips. Thank you, Nikki, for that. We definitely going to explore some of these things because I'm one of those people who honestly has been scared of addressing the issues of wills and all that. But slowly and surely I've adjusted to understanding the importance of it and addressing it. So yeah, and even if it's temporary, it's okay. I can change it as things go, as you see what is coming up. Like, for example, you made a good example because we always think money, assets, but kids, it's a very, very good example, which can also cause problems because you find that maybe the parents did not have a lot, but they had kids, and now there's issues around where the kids should go. That's a good example. Thank you very much. So the next lesson, this one it's very deep. Spiritual practice. Let go and let God. Nikki?
So here at the Money Time podcast, we try and stay away from controversial issues like religion and politics. But this particular one, and the reason why I term it is spiritual practice, because a lot of people out there are not religious, but they're spiritual, and vice versa. What the pandemic has shown us is that the pandemic was far greater than anything and anyone that we could have expected. And the only thing you could do during those trying times is find some sort of spiritual practice or religious practice that you could engage in, because all you could do is pray, right? It doesn't matter what religious background you come from. If you found yourself in a situation where you were personally faced with COVID, or people that you love were in hospital with COVID, all you could do was pray, right? There was absolutely nothing else that you could do, was pray. So that's the reason why I mention spiritual practice. And yes, there are many of us out there who have lost loved ones as a result of COVID. And yes, it brings up a lot of mixed emotions, be it sadness, be it anger, or whatever the emotions are. But by engaging in spiritual practice, by praying, by belief in a power greater than us, and engaging with this particular power, you can try and find peace in some way or the other. So also just trust, we find ourselves asking questions. Like in my case, I lost my aunt who raised me. So as much as my mom brought me into the world, my aunt raised me, and my aunt was a very important part of my life, and she was a mother to me. I lost her during COVID. It was a very challenging time for me. And I really struggled personally to make peace with the fact that she was no longer with me or with our family. And for me, the only way I found peace, and I still find peace, is just by engaging in spiritual practice, in praying to God that her soul has now reached a better place wherever she is, and just praying and finding peace within that, knowing that it was unfortunate that she had to leave us, but unfortunately, this was the way she chose to transit.
Thank you, Nikki. I think you've mentioned something important. We always try and run away from the religious and political issues, but we can't avoid this one, especially based on the impact that the pandemic had. And there's always something that is said, that a person who's not comforted doesn't heal easy, and especially when you've lost a parent or a family member through death, and if you've not been comforted properly, like maybe got people coming and supporting you, and you've gotten advices, the word of God, if that has not happened and been done properly, you don't have peace within you. You may find yourself crying, sometimes angry, and it's because you're not properly comforted. So a lot of us has lost family members. A lot of us, we've lost friends. Personally, I lost my dad because of COVID, like my biological father. So I know the pain that the pandemic has brought. So, but through spiritual and religious practice, I've learned to let go and let God, because you can see that I'm a stronger person today. And if I was dwelling on this loss and not gotten enough comfort from friends and families and church colleagues and the community, I don't think I'll be sitting in front of this camera telling people to let go and let God, because these are realities, and very painful realities. But if we, for some reason, give space for God to heal, it does happen. And I think that's what we need to do, because like you said, something very important. A lot of things couldn't be done for anyone. You couldn't reach out to hospitals. You couldn't go into the room where the person was. So it was just very complex. All you could do was to
Pray.
just pray for that particular person. But probably my wife will kill me for this one. but with me, and also, you know, trusting in the process, letting God, you know, with me and my wife, we were staying together. It was only the two of us, and she contracted COVID because she was an essential worker at that time and in a medical environment. So, you know, I had to let go and let God, was let go of my fears, because, you know, there was still this issue of, you know, you need to isolate a person. I couldn't do that. I just said to myself, when I let go of the fears and let God, I was with her all the time next to her, because it could have easily gone wrong, because the psychological effect as well. Once a person realizes how sick they are even supposed to be locked somewhere separate or sit in a separate room, could have easily made her worse. So, you know, those are the things that, and spiritual practice gave me courage to say, you know what, I know this is easily contractable and I can easily get it, but you know what, I'm just gonna try and trust the above forces to look after me. And I think I also, because I did not do a test, but I had symptoms, because I lost taste and a smell, but I wasn't sick. So I was probably I can't remember what they called those ones.
Asymptomatic.
Yeah, asymptomatic. So and that's what happened. And I was around her until she was okay and she was fine. And we moved past that. So, and it was more about me trusting and letting go.
Thank you for sharing openly and honestly, Zweli. I'm certain the viewers appreciate it. And also from my side and from the viewers, condolences to you and your family for the loss of your dad.
Thank you, Nikki, and condolences to you for the loss of your aunt.
Thank you.
Thank you. The next one, 4IR. Can I start there, or maybe I need to let you start?
No, go ahead. Take it.
Okay. Yeah, I think for me, 4IR, obviously, it's fourth industrial revolution, and we can look at it at two levels, because I want us to look at it from a higher level where it's easier and easy to understand. But there is the deep element of it. So when we're talking 4IR, we're looking in the sense of it, like with technology. We're looking at things like Internet of Things, virtual reality, 3D printing, robots. We're looking at artificial intelligence, cloud computing, big data, knowledge of work automation, and things like network security. But these are just a lot of things that I've mentioned. And their characteristics, obviously, it's interconnection, it's data, it's integration, it's innovation and transition. So I'm just giving you 4IR the way it is in terms of how we look at it from a technological perspective. But then in our daily lives, we need to obviously, especially after the pandemic, in line with the lessons, we need to embrace this and try and be part for, like, move with this. Don't say I'm too old, I can't move with this 4IR thing. So, for example, cell phones, smartphones are going to be part of the needs moving forward, not a want, but it's going to be, if you want to be part of a 4IR, you need to have something like a smartphone or a tablet or a laptop. You need to start embracing these devices in order for you to be able to do certain things easily. And how is that going to help us moving forward? Issues like working from home. you cannot be working from home without a device that will be able to connect you with your office or your colleagues. So for you to work from home, you say maybe you have to have some form of a device that will enable you to be able to communicate with others as you are working. Because remember, your home is like now your office. But how do you go to the next office if you don't have to your neighbor, the next office in your physical building? Now you're home. You need an email, or you need a Zoom app, you need Teams app, there's just a lot, but there's different application. You need your WhatsApp for communication, your cell phone for a call, a direct call. So for us, I'm trying to now bring it to our reality. We need to just embrace 4IR as is and be realistic about it, especially the older people that when I say older, I mean people from the age of 50 going up, those who are saying, I'm too old for this, and they're still working. You need to start embracing the technologies, and there's a lot. Internet, we can't, nowadays, internet, we have these new products where they install the internet fiber, ADSL, Wi-Fi routers in our home. This is part of 4IR. Internet banking is part of 4IR. So I'm just now trying to bring it closer to our reality. But I think the most important thing is accepting that it's going to form part of us, and this is how we're going to move forward in our lives, even in our churches. Some people will be live in the church. Some people can actually take the service from home if we start bringing in cameras and streaming the church service. And why? Because some people cannot now walk to church or drive to church because of the age. But those who are at church are able to now use the streaming service to provide the service to those who, because there are those who are saying, every weekend when it's Sunday or Saturday and I want to worship, I can't because I cannot walk to church because I'm too ill to be at church and all those things. But if we start, embracing 4IR, we can start looking at things like streaming the church service privately, maybe even for our church members. Those are the things that we can do, provide maybe radio, online radio service for the church service. There's so many ways to do it, but I was just trying to bring it now to our reality. And for our reality is that we have it, it's here, and we need to just adjust and adopt to it. And also, do not listen to everything that everyone says. Of course, technology has got its own effects, especially in our health. There's also these radio waves that causes cancer and all that. It is true that let's not, but let's also not take things like 5G causes COVID, all those things, because those are the problems that we also had. That 4IR is bringing COVID because this 5G network is the one that is killing people. There's been so many stories, and we can't blame people for that, because it's also what other sources are providing. When people are in a fight or argument, they can easily affect people who knows nothing about it, because they have an argument. For example, if me and you, Nikki, have got a technology that we are competing to provide, and I'm the first one to complete it and bring it to the people. If you are not happy, you can easily sabotage me and say, you know what, let's start distributing news that this technology is not good. It affects people health-wise. And it's because you lost on the race. So those are the things that can easily happen. And I'm not saying who said or who did what. I'm just making an example here. And hence we've had stories that the network, because a lot of people believe that there's some radio waves from the 5G network that are causing COVID. And I want to clear that to say, let's not believe everything and anything that we hear. This fake news also are going to affect us because of OIR. Fake news are going to be so distributed, and also the truth will be stored in within us. Through research, you can find the truth. So use the search engines for research, use the search engines for educating yourself, empower yourself. OIR is going to do a lot for us, but it can also easily affect us if we do not use it properly. Let me give you a chance, Nikki, because I think I can talk a lot around this issue.
We can hear you very passionate about 4IRs, really. So very nicely said and very insightful. Thanks for sharing with us. This 4IR and embracing it also touches on our earlier point in terms of adjusting to change, because this has been one of the big things that a lot of people have had to adjust to, and irrespective of age. Tech has been something that people are still adjusting to and will have to adjust to in the future. Zweli, you've added a lot of great advantages around tech, but just maybe 2 cons around tech that I would like to mention to the viewers would be things like cybersecurity. So that's really important because a lot of businesses have been hacked by cyber criminals. And the other one closer to home, still linked to security, would be online security measures and being cautious when you're doing things like internet banking. So one last thing I'd like to add to the 4IR, Zweli, and this is really relevant to our podcast, is Zweli and I are both in different parts of Johannesburg, and we are connecting to you via an app to bring you this podcast. You are in your homes, it's evening, you're relaxing, you're in the comfort of your home, and you are listening to us on this podcast. Now, this is an excellent example of 4IR, and 2 people from different parts of Johannesburg having to been able to do a podcast from the comfort of their homes, and you as a viewer not having to leave your home to drive to some studio to actually listen to our podcast.
Very good example there. In fact, it's one of the things that I thought of as part of the 4IR, that we actually using that. And also people would wonder things like cloud computing I spoke of. So we do not have these podcasts sitting in our computer for people to access them. They are in the cloud, but there is a physical machine somewhere. It could be in the US where we save this and people are accessing it. It could be in Cape Town, and people, that's what we call cloud computing. So there's a lot that the 4IR is doing, but a good example with our podcast, and I think people get an idea. And thank you for also touching around security, because it's also an issue, and people also need to stay away from trusting a lot of things that are coming into their phone, like, stay away from these adverts or links that they will say there's free groceries to be won, and then you see a thread, people saying, I got mine yesterday, thank you so much. Those are fake things. So you need also to be careful around those things, because that's where you start providing your information, because all they need is your name, surname, your phone number, and your email address. Then you are going to get free groceries worth 2,000. Those links, stop distributing the links around, or you'll be able to win. There's 1,000 iPhones that are to be worn. It's not true. It's not true. Stay away from those because those are the problems that comes with 4IR. And Nikki mentioned security.
Very useful tips, really, very useful tips.
Be careful of those and stay away from those links. Do not allow anyone to send you the link. If you get the link from a friend, a family member, warn them about those and do not take it forward. Just delete it and tell the other person not to distribute such, because there is nothing like that. 100,000 of iPhone worth to be won, worth 13,000. It's not true. No one can do that. No one is doing that. Stop falling for those traps because they are very dangerous. Thank you, Nikki. On the 4IR one, I feel like there's a lot that I can talk about there, but I think for the sake of time, let's go to the last lesson. Greater respect and regards for all humans. Let's have greater respect and regards for all humans. Nikki?
So this is very simple and self-explanatory. As we've mentioned earlier on, the COVID did not discriminate against who contracted it, right? And we all found ourselves, irrespective of our bank balances, cultural differences, whatever the differences were, we were all united as one. COVID did not discriminate. So this is just a simple reminder that even though we are now past the pandemic, respect each other, be kind to each other, and do whatever you can for your fellow humans.
No, thank you, Nikki. I think, like you said, it's self-explanatory, and there isn't much that we can really say on this lesson, but just to emphasize on the respect. I always say respect keeps you younger. When you respect, you remain young. You remain young forever. So just have respect, because and this is coming from this understanding that when you have respect for others, there's no way you can disrespect yourself. And once you respect others, you will respect yourself more and look after yourself more, because you've got the ability to respect others and look after others, and you cannot neglect yourself when you have respect. And that's how you stay younger, because you look after yourself.
Wise words.
Yeah, there's a clip, Nikki. I saw a lady who looks way younger than me, way younger than me. She says she's 61. It's very. I need to look for that clip, and maybe because of this, I need to look for that clip and maybe put it as part of the podcast. And her advice is, she says you must just shower once a week in order for you to stay young. But she looks very young. But for me, it's I looked at that and I said, you know what? I like, if it's true that she's 61, I like what I see. I'm not too sure about not taking a bath every day. That's an but for me, what came into mind is she looks after herself. Where in that sense of not taking a shower every day, but she's looking after herself. But what I believe that if you are able to respect others, you'll be able to respect yourself and take care of yourself and remain very young. So yeah, I think that was our last lesson, and we certainly hope people will take that to heart, because it's a very big one for me. If you regard all humans, don't underestimate people, do not judge people, respect everyone and love everyone. And I think you will really live a very healthy and peaceful life, physically and psychologically. So yeah, this is the end of our podcast. And before we close it off, of course, we'd like to take a moment of silence to honor those family members, friends, colleagues who have obviously been affected, by the pandemic, and some have lost their lives. Some we don't know them, some we know them. Some have been heroes to our communities. They've contributed positively, especially what was it called? The first line. What was it called, Nikki?
First defense workers.
Yeah, the first line workers. We would like to obviously take a moment of silence to honor everyone who's lost their lives, to honor those who are still alive but who has been affected because of they've risked their health to take care of others, and everyone else who survived it, including me and you, Nikki. And we just want to take a moment of silence to honor everyone and just say, keep pushing. Let go and let God.
And thank you.
And thank you. Your words before we go for the moment of silence, Nikki?
I'm in support of this. I think it's a wonderful way for us to acknowledge all of those who were part of the pandemic struggle.
Okay, we're going to it. Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Nikki, for the great lessons. Thank you to the viewers for listening in. We hope that this podcast will definitely help in moving forward. And from my side, thank you and goodbye.
Thanks, Zweli. Thank you, viewers. Catch you at the Q&A. Have a lovely rest of the week.
Bye.
Bye.
He's unstoppable.
Who's hot, who not? Tell me who rock, who sell out in the stores. You tell me who flop, who cop the blue drop, who jewels got blocks, who's mostly Dolce down to the two top. The same old pimp, Mace, you know ain't nothing changed but my limp. Can't stop till I see my name on the blimp. Guarantee a million sales, pull a level up. You don't believe in Harlem World, nigga, double up. We don't play around, it's a bet, lay it down. Niggas didn't know me 91, bet they know me now. I'm the young Harlem nigga with the Goldie sound. Can't no PD, niggas hold me down. Cooler, school me to the game, now I know my duty. Stay humble, stay low, blow like Hootie. True pimp, niggas spin no dough on the booty. And when you yell, there go Mace, there go your cutie.
He have just won the Bad Boy Golf Tournament. How do you feel about winning this PGA?
Oh man, well I was having some trouble on the 17th hole, but my man B.I. from up above came down.